Funny story that's going to go unpublished. A funny story from yesterday is I was visiting a prostitute. I'm totally open and candid about it. I was visiting a prostitute because I find it incredibly difficult to get sex from women. A, being so fucking monstrously ugly, and B, having absolutely zero connection with any of the women I meet. Guys like me are effectively forced to engage the services of a whore, effectively, a prostitute. There's a million different names for them: escort, call girl, lady of the night. I mean, take your pick. Anyway, needless to say, this particular whore was staying in the Maldron Hotel on Shandon Street. And look, cutting an incredibly long story short, she was staying in a room in the Maldron Hotel. I prearranged to meet her. Initially, she said she could meet me at 4:30. Then she called me back a few minutes later, said she could do 3 p.m. So I was thrilled. A beautiful 28-year-old Czechoslovakian girl called Annette. Anyway, so drove. I was working and I finished my job, and I drove to John Redmond Street where the Maldron Hotel is located, and then I parked up and I walked as far as the hotel. Walked in. Again, this is where the cutting an incredibly long story short bit comes in. As I walked into the hotel, I was accosted by the manager and the reception staff. 2 receptionist ladies were there, and they asked me if I was all right. I said, I'm fine, thank you. How are you? No, but anyway, I said, I'm looking for the elevator. Where is it? They said, you can't visit a bedroom unless you're a registered hotel guest, or unless you call the person down. Now, obviously, since I was there for the purposes of getting my end away with a prostitute, I couldn't tell them, yes, I'm just visiting a prostitute in 319, as it's actually illegal in this country. But I mean, when it comes to us men who can't get it with ordinary women, we'll break the law by paying $100 for half an hour shag. I couldn't exactly say I was there to visit a prostitute, but anyway, so next thing was they called her bedroom. They said, you know, are you expecting anyone? She said no. She was being very coy about the whole thing. And anyway, so I was caught between a rock and a hard place now at this point. I came in. She'd lost out on 120 quid. And anyway, so the next thing was, I called her on my phone and I said, they won't allow me up unless you come down to the lobby to meet me. Obviously that wasn't going to happen. So she said, we'll just leave it. You just leave, she said. So I did. But not before having it out with the hotel staff and saying to the one chap, the manager, I'd like to speak to your manager. Do you have a higher up person in charge? He said, I do. Would you like to speak to him? I said, do. He came over. His name is Joe. Spoke with Joe, very nice man, very open and honest, told me exactly what the other manager, whose name I did not get, said. And then I said, that's fair enough. I shook his hand at the end and I walked out. I'm cutting it there because I could ramble on about this forever. But long story short is, I visited prostitutes in just about every location you can imagine. I visited them in hotels. I visited prostitutes in apartments. I visited them in penthouses. I visited them everywhere. I've had most of my romantic encounters have been with prostitutes. So most of the interaction sexually I've had with women, I paid for it, which is not a very good indignation on me, but still. Anyway, so, but I don't so much mind that, as some of these women, apart from the 5 or the 10% of men, would be so far out of our league that, frankly, if I can have a shag with a woman like that, then it's, I'm willing to pay for it. So I've paid for it anyway. But the thing is, I didn't get my end away on this particular occasion yesterday, and I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that it's a risky business meeting a prostitute in a hotel, for the simple reason is, they might be you might be under the radar when you're meeting them in a hotel or something like that, or sorry, in a penthouse or an apartment or a private location, a house or whatever. But meeting them in a hotel brings about all sorts of, alarm bells will ring on behalf of management and everything. And I don't know if they know that they have prostitutes working from their hotels, but if you have a string of men coming in and out every day that the prostitute's there, it's sort of a giveaway. But anyway, this is just a heads up to any of the men who there are many more of us out there. There's a growing contingency of men that are going to both want and need to use prostitutes going forward, because the thing is, more men are being found to be extraordinarily ugly by women, and more men are being pushed out of the dating pool, and 5 to 10% of men will always, they can get their end away morning, noon and night. They'll have women throwing themselves at them all the time, and they'll be pushing them away with barge poles. But a growing number of men are not that fortunate. Something like 80% of men are perceived to be ugly, unattractive is the better word, by women. And so there's going to be a large number of men going forth who will need prostitutes in their lives for the purposes of having sex. But the thing is, you see, you have to be careful how you do it, but online dating has made women so picky. I think they were picky before that, but online dating has basically, most women now will swipe left on probably 90 or 95 out of 100 men in favour of 5 or 10. And so that means that going forward, more men are going to need prostitutes to meet their sexual targets, you know what I mean? And so this video is getting quite long, we're over 7 minutes, so I'm going to leave it at that, and I'm going to say, I think for men, I think one piece of advice I'll give you: swap Tinder for Escort Ireland. Just a quick shag for half an hour once a week or once a month or whatever, and you'll never again have to deal with the imperfections of dating and the rejections that most men will suffer as a result of dating. Because if you're fucking ugly like me, you have no hope of ever having a proper relationship with a woman, so prostitutes are the only way to go. Anyway, on that note, I shall bid you farewell, and I'll talk to you all soon.